You guys gotta stop asking me about Bionicle. Do you have any idea how expensive Bionicle cards are? I don't have any. Hey kids, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, fresh from the shower, and I hope that you are having a great day. And in today's video, I wanted to sit back, relax, and have a calming conversation with you all about cards, card games, the different kinds of card games, and the inspiration behind them. We are back in the sealed product corner of the garage because I felt that this was an appropriate area to film this particular video, because I want to talk about the two different kinds of card games. And I do believe that there are two different kinds. There are what I like to call original card games like Magic, Flesh and Blood, and similar TCGs. And then there's what I like to call licensed TCGs, even though they aren't always specifically licensed, like Pokemon, the Gundam, the One Piece, that kind of thing. I think you get what I'm talking about when I say that. And when it comes to the two different kinds of TCGs, there's two different sources of inspiration that result in their creation, so to speak. When it comes to a lot of the original card games like Magic and Flesh and Blood, oftentimes they are built from the ground up. That is to say, their mechanics, their core gameplay, their lore, all the things featured on the cards are kind of created for the sole purpose of that card game, right? When it comes to Magic, the color pie system, the mana system, the world of Dominaria, the Magic's multiverse, and all the characters, they were created for Magic the Gathering because the people who were originally behind Magic the Gathering way back in the day, not Wizards of the Coast of today, they wanted to create their own game with their own world, their own mechanics, etc. They wanted to create something that was theirs, something unique and new. And when it comes to licensed card games, it's kind of the opposite. When it comes to licensed card games, chances are the license holder, they just kind of want to strike while the iron's hot, while something's big and popular and in the cultural, in the forefront of cultural thought at the moment. Pop culture is focusing on an IP for one reason or another, and the guys who own the IP see an opportunity to make money, so they make a card game for their IP, or they license it out to another company to make that card game for that IP. And there's countless examples. I've shown off some here before, like we've talked about Shaolin Showdown a brief bit, talked about Dot Hack. What else have I got down here? Oh, there's bound to be some. Pokemon's a really good example. Pokemon card game, believe it or not, was made after the Pokemon video games. I know that is such a difficult thing to wrap your heads around, but yeah, it's true. This was not first. The Pokemon card game was never first. I don't have enough Pokemon Go. A lot of times, when it comes to original card games, and I like to choose Magic and Flesh and Blood a lot because those are kind of the best examples of original card games. They aren't the only examples, mind you, but they are, in my opinion, the best examples of card games created just to be card games and not card games created for another purpose. There's a lot of power that the company in charge of the card game, in charge of developing it, they have a lot of power in terms of what is and is not going to be kind of reflective of that IP. That isn't always the case when it comes to licensed card games. Licensed card games rarely have full control over the general tone, feel, the aesthetic, the flavor of the cards they are producing, because more often than not, and I know that this isn't an eternal every card game example kind of thing, but more often than not, those card games that are created based off of something that's big and popular in the world of pop culture, those are made in a kind of, a strike while the iron's hot kind of moment, kind of mindset where, let's zoom out and take a look at the original Bionicle card game, for instance, which I don't have any. Just so you guys know, I don't have any Bionicle. Leave me alone. I wish I had some Bionicle cards. That'd be great. But if you zoom out and go back to 2001, 2002, Bionicle got really popular real quick, and it wasn't, nobody who was involved with Bionicle knew at the time how long the IP was going to stick around. So they created the Bionicle card game to kind of capitalize on the success. Not a lot of thought was put into the long-term sustainability of the Bionicle card game, and of course, the original Bionicle card game, because there's been like 6 of them. There's been a few Bionicle card games, but the original one only had 2 sets, if I recall correctly, because it wasn't designed to be sustainable. A lot of these licensed TCGs aren't designed to be sustainable. They are designed to make a quick buck and then move on. Decipher, in particular, is mega guilty about this. Decipher rarely, if ever, rarely has ever had a card game last more than 2 years. There's been exceptions. Now that I think about it, there has been exceptions. But 2 to 3 years is, especially when it comes to licensed card games, the kind of big wall that most card games face when it comes to long-term sustainability, player growth, and cultural impact. Pop culture impact, especially. Because nobody's, when it comes to long-term culture impact, there's a lot that can be said about games like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Flesh and Blood. I almost guarantee there's not a single person out there who's talking about the cultural impact of TCGs and then is mentioning Hecatomb. Hecatomb was an original, and that's a bad example. The OG Star Wars TCGs. Neopets, the Neopets TCG. The first one. There's a new one that's currently ongoing. Fingers crossed for that one. There's not a lot of cultural resonance being discussed when it comes to the Bleach TCG or the Inuyasha or the Yu Yu Hakusho TCG because, believe it or not, those are all things that have had TCGs. The Naruto TCG, the Harry Potter TCG. Was there an X-Men TCG? I think there was an X-Men TCG. I might be misremembering that. But there's been a boatload of Star Wars TCGs. There's been a Transformers TCG. I would not be surprised if sooner or later there's a Mario TCG. Because, look, when it comes to getting a quick buck, there's very few things that work better than a licensed video game or a licensed card game. And this is something we used to see all the time in the world of video games. When a movie or a TV show or something else got big, as part of its marketing campaign in the weeks and months leading up to its release, usually there was a video game based on the property. And these video games were rarely good, and they usually sucked, had terrible graphics, terrible gameplay, were overall just not great. But they served their purpose because they made money for the IP holder in one way or another. Not always amazingly, but more often than not, bad video games did sell. And a lot of times in the card game world, a lot of times in the card game world, bad TCGs with the right licensing it does sell. Imagine if the Pokemon TCG was slightly worse in 1999. Do you think it would have stuck around for the long haul without the huge fan support, without the love that the Pokemon fans had at the time for it? Imagine if there was no Gold, Silver, Crystal. If Gen 2 Pokemon never came out and the Pokemon TCG was just slightly worse, do you think it would have stuck around? I don't think so. I know that's crazy to think about, right? Well, Pokemon's amazing. It's going to go on forever. Yeah, but what if it was just slightly different? Just slightly different. And then you take that slightly different and you apply it to a lot of the dead TCGs on the market and you think, well, what if things were slightly different? What if the Mega Man TCG built by Decipher wasn't a licensed Mega Man game? What if it was a completely new IP designed with a cyberpunk internet theme? And rather than tying it to a TV adaptation of a spin-off video game of a video game franchise, they made their own idea with it and gave it its own art, gave it its own development team, etc. I think it could have stuck around for a lot longer because, as I've said before, I believe strongly that the Mega Man TCG is very good, very fun, and had a real chance of sticking around if it weren't for its unfortunate licensing issues. Because, yeah, I do believe licensing is an issue when it comes to the longevity of a TCG, regardless of who owns the TCG license. Because look at Bandai Namco. They shit out TCGs left and right. Every IP that they can get, they try to do a TCG for every IP they can. They've done some original stuff over the years. Battle Spirit Saga comes to mind. Not well, but it does come to mind. But more often than not, you'll see that when you have access to an IP that you think might be lucrative in the TCG world, people try to make their quick buck, and they don't really tend to... Rarely is thought given to how long-term that TCG can be, unless there's the desire behind it to push, to create your own world, to push your own setting, to get your own story, characters, and mechanics out there. Imagine if Magic had been slightly different. Imagine if instead of being its own thing, Magic really was a game telling... Let's pick on Arabian Nights. Imagine if Arabian Nights was the original Magic the Gathering set, and all the Magic sets released afterwards were laser-focused Arabian Nights stories, just given card form. Do you think Magic would have stuck around for as long as it did if that was the case? I believe the answer is no. So where's this video going? Where am I going with this discussion? I just want to say that when it comes to deciding what kind of TCGs I personally like to collect or invest in or put my time and effort into caring about, I am far more likely to give a new IP, a original TCG, a try than I am a licensed TCG. And it's not that licensed TCGs are bad. Like I said, I think the Mega Man TCG, for instance, is really good, really fun, very much worth collecting. And there are plenty of original TCGs over the years that have died and faded by the wayside and aren't remembered by anyone. Looking at you, Hecatomb. Hang on. I still have it down here. Looking at you, Hecatomb. I gotta get around to talking about this at some point. This is such a bad game. I can't believe they made this. This is terrible. When it comes to the long-term sustainability, that's something that you as a store owner, as a collector, as an investor, something you have to care about when it comes to deciding what to buy for your store or for your personal collection. You have to think, does this have what it takes to survive the long haul? And if it's a licensed TCG, there's a point against it, because licenses are not forever. The IP could fade into obscurity or end, as we've seen with a lot of the IP-inspired TCGs of the past. They were made on flash-in-the-pan moments, and the moment the popularity for the thing went away, the card game went away. Still salty about Mega Man. We're still talking about Mega Man in this video. It's all going to come back to Mega Man. I miss it so much, boys. But yeah, that's all I've really got for you kids today. Just wanted to say that when it comes to original versus license, I tend to give original more time of day. Not necessarily that I think all original TCGs are better than licensed TCGs. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm just saying that without anything else to go off of, I'm going to give the original TCG a likelier chance of sticking around for long term. That's all I really want to say. But that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like, share, and subscribe. Stick around for more content if you wish, and I will see you all in the next one.